We saw 125 films in 2023, but what were the worst?
Just another movie night.
Hello, everybody. We are Just Another Movie Night, and I am Scott.
And I'm Joe.
And today we're counting down the worst movies of 2023. So yeah, we're going to count down. But we decided to make a cohesive list between our two lists of the worst movies. We came up with a whole bunch of 10 movies each or something like that. And we decided to combine them, see what we agreed on, and then break them down in genre. So each number will talk about genres of films we saw as our picks, at least up until number 1. And then we'll do whatever. So, all right, let's start with number 10.
I guess to start off, we're going to talk about the holiday trash. I mean, okay. So, I mean, these movies are kind of cheap. You can't really, blame them for the way they're being made. Because there's so many of them. So it's like, they're all just kind of they all have the same formula and everything. But, I guess every year it's like a further descent into more madness, more trash. But they kind of just feel like the same movie. But this year we actually watched two movies that are not that bad. We watched Biltmore Christmas and The Holiday in the Vineyard, which I thought were pretty decent movies. But then you got number 10 on our list, which I think we both agree is probably the worst. It's Xmas. That's starring, was it Robbie Amell Leighton Meester, which are probably the two most unlikable characters in the history of any holiday trash we've seen. They don't fit at all. It's like Robbie Amell's he comes home for Christmas to surprise his family. That's been done before. Only to find that his family actually invited his ex-girlfriend to spend the holidays with them. The ex-girlfriend being Leighton Meester. So that's kind of like the plot. You can the formula's already there for complete and utter chaos and ridiculousness. I guess they invited her because she had nowhere else to go for the holidays because they figure he wasn't going to be there. They'd invite her, which I think is still fucked. I mean, that's just who does that? What family does that? But the leads are completely unlikable. Every character is just so you just feel like it was just written by a machine. They were all just kind of drawn up the same way. Every family in these Hallmark movies are pretty much the same, but.
Yeah, and it really goes to that idea that AI is completely writing these scripts.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that movie doesn't make it any better.
No.
They're passive-aggressively hating each other.
No! How about that?
But I think that they actually love each other. It's quite confusing.
Times change, and if you don't change with them, you're going to end up marrying your own hand.
All right, so next up is we're going to do Indie Fare.
Okay.
Basically, it's just like holiday Christmas movies and these kind of holiday films that we just talked about. The same thing goes here. The problem with Indie Fare is that, well, they're experimental. People are trying out. They're trying to make names for themselves, which is great. Mm-hmm. So we can't really knock it, but it doesn't mean that it gets a pass.
Right.
So we saw 2 movies this year that can be considered Indie Fare. Well, we saw a couple of, maybe some others, but that might show up somewhere else on the list. But for last year, we saw 2 in particular. One was called Cannibal Comedian, but that doesn't get the worst. What we saw was a sequel called Mutilator 2, which is virtually just a movie, and that's why it's our number I should say our number 9. It's Mutilator 2 because it's just a movie that was made from Kickstarter that basically was made just to please those fans that gave them money. So the whole movie, and I say movie lightly, because it's not much of a movie at all. It's actually just a bunch of people hanging out without a script. They have some cool kills, some interesting things like that, some funny gore, but there's hardly anything about this that makes it a movie. It literally just ends at one point.
Yeah,
it to me is the epitome of why you don't want to give some Kickstarter movies, because you get crap like this that's just shoved out, and I don't even know if this has still been released.
So stay tuned. It'll be coming soon to a theater near you.
Action. Oh, good lord. All right, our next genre is action. Yeah, there was a lot of letdowns. John Woo's Silent Night. From that movie to Jason Statham's, the Meg 2 and The Expendables 4. Even though we love Jason Statham, I gotta say, he doesn't make the best movies all the time. But we knew what we were going into with those 2 movies of his. But I would say that those are bad, but they're not worse than this godforsaken movie called The Collective.
Yes.
This movie stars Tyrese. And we love Tyrese.
When you say co-stars. Tyrese.
Okay, co-stars Tyrese. We love Tyrese in the Fast movies, the Fast franchise. And then there's this other actor, Lucas Till. I don't know where we know him from or if we do.
Yeah, he was in a couple things.
But he's like that guy that wears Hawaiian shirts under leather jackets, and he's a total douche. I mean, this is the character, not the actor. I'm saying the character, and it's this movie is so stupid that it reminded me, I think I said it to you at one point, that it reminded me of Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun when they're firing guns right at each other, next to each other.
Yeah.
He's literally hiding behind a wooden bench with huge slats and they're firing machine guns on him and he doesn't get hit. It's that kind of stupid action. And also there's Ruby Rose is in this, and we think she's going to be the star because she's front and center on the poster or the DVD cover or whatever.
Yeah.
No. We don't even get to look at her pretty face.
That's the oddity, that her and Tyrese are side characters.
Yeah. And
that's really, really odd. I think Don Johnson is in this too, and also side character.
Yeah, when I saw him, I was like, wait, is that really him? I had to do a double take.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, this movie might be cool,
Yeah.
I mean, Sonny Crockett. I mean, he used to be cool back in the 80s.
Yeah, it's bad.
But yeah, this movie's it's trash.
You blew up my house, Sam.
It happens.
All right, so next up, what would a list be without sci-fi? All right, and luckily this year, sci-fi, and it's shockingly not going to be 65 starring at
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver. It's going to be a movie called Rebel Moon, thanks to Zack Snyder back again to show us that when he's set loose on his own, it doesn't go very well. Rebel Moon is a huge pile of crap. It is a copy infringement's wet dream of a film. It feels like you've seen every single film that's ever been made in this one movie. You constantly are watching and going, that seems familiar. That seems familiar.
Yeah.
It is a mess of a film. And yeah, we're lucky because it's part 1 and it's going to have a part 2. So
are we going to come back for that?
I can't wait. I just can't wait. I love dumpster fires, and this is a dumpster fire if I have ever seen one.
Well, we like Sophia Boutella, and when she was, kicking ass and, beating up guys and stuff, that was decent. But
unfortunately, in this slow mode Zack Snyder way, where the action doesn't actually connect.
Why does he have to use slow-mo so much all the time?
What's really crazy is this movie's only 2 hours and 14 minutes, and it feels like 4. And he's telling everybody, well, it's going to be a Snyder cut. because that's his thing, to get his fans ready to go. And we're going to get a sequel. So not only are we going to get a 4-hour version of this thing, but we're also going to get another one. And he's talking about a trilogy. He's nuts.
Okay, no.
Someone's got to end it. Someone's got to stop this now.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not coming back for part 2. I mean, or, you know,
I
you can
can't
put
wait.
it on and I'll be doing other things in
He
the
might
background.
make an episode of Talking Trash.
Oh,
So,
God.
But it's also more bizarre. It's just more, it's more Verhoeven-esque, I guess, if you want to think about it in those ways. You know, it's more RoboCop than, you know.
Number 6, because of the reboots and the, I guess, sequels, so many of them are out there. So we watched Exorcist Believer, Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which I feel like I already forgot.
yeah.
Was Pam Grier in that?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only thing I really remember about that, I guess. But, and then we watched Children of the Corn. Which there's 9,000 sequels of Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
This one is, I guess they're rebooting the movie because this is supposed to be the sequel to the first one with Linda Hamilton, the first one. But are they forgetting that they did make a Children of the Corn Part 2?
Well, this is a reboot of the original.
So this is a reboot of the original with Linda Hamilton.
Yes.
It sucked. Okay, I'm like, what? Now, when I was a kid, and we already know this because I've talked about this in our podcast before. When I was a kid, Children of the Corn did something to me. It messed me up. I still, as an adult, can't go near cornfields.
Yeah.
I'll freak out. This movie was really bad. It did not give me any kind of like freaky feelings, any creepy feelings. It didn't give me the same like feelings at all as like the first original Linda Hamilton one. It sucked. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, but yeah, it was like, it was crap. So Children of the Corn is our number 6 for reboots or sequels.
Yeah, that's the genre of that. We decided to go with that number. Yeah, I mean, there's so many of, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, of all of them, that definitely is the one.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't even think the original is that good, but that's what makes it suck even more when the original can be approved upon so much, and the sequel and that remake is just diving down, even just as bad. What's the point then?
I know. It sucks.
So next up, comic book films.
Oh.
So yeah, this is an interesting debate here because all year long it seems like comic book films have been really at the bottom of the barrel. It seems like all comic book films are starting to hit that sour note for a lot of people. I think that we're at the level now where we're all kind of either dissatisfied with comic book movies in general, we're getting too much overload of them, and I think that people are now also starting to attack them for numerous reasons. It's almost become the battle that we all had when we were growing up, DC versus Marvel. And so now we're at that pinnacle.
Yep.
And I know it's a lot of people are just so ready to knock DC for many reasons. We have to go with a Marvel movie as probably one of the worst MCU films.
So bad.
And so this year we're going with our number 5, The Marvels. The Marvels is to me a disaster. It goes out of its way to completely try to play to audiences by making the characters act like, unlike the characters that they already established in previous movies. They made them complete parodies of themselves.
Yeah.
I will say that it's sad because the actress that plays Kamala Khan is actually kind of entertaining and really refreshing to bring to the universe.
Yeah.
But the other characters around her are now acting like her. So everybody's now a comedian. Everything's a joke. Coming off of Secret Invasion on Disney Plus, now Nick Fury's a complete, utter joke version of himself than the brooding character we just learned about. So that ruins that show, even though that show wasn't that great in the first place. But makes it even worse, they take Carol Danvers, who they establish as basically a hard ass, somebody who's very, deep and reserved, she is now made into a Disney princess with an actual full musical joke set piece.
I was ashamed.
It's very embarrassing.
I couldn't believe the shit that I was seeing. It was like,
Yeah.
What is this?
To make it worse, they're playing to audiences and kids by doing cat memes. There's an entire cat set piece to this movie that's just there to get people to go, I like cats. And if, even if there is some decent things in this, just like its villain, it's terrible.
Well, we
the
always
villain
talk
in this
about
movie
that.
is garbage.
Yeah, if there's a bad villain in any kind of comic book movie, that's not helping the movie along at all. Especially since Captain Marvel took a back seat in her own sequel. It's embarrassing.
Which I'm fine about if you do it in a smart way, like the Avengers all could. Here, no. It's just a mess. And the editing and directing seem like they were put through some kind of blender behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's a sad thing. That's why the Marvels definitely are worst comic book movie of the year. And number 5.
I can't. Can you?
I got it.
All right, so we're on number 4, and the genre is comedy. I think this one kind of made you physically irate. This one. Comedies aren't doing really great in the box office. It seems like horror's kind of winning that now. And I'm not,
We'll get
sad
to
about
that
it.
next, yeah.
Not sad about it. But we watched some movies that were pretty freaking good in the theater. We watched No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun movie. And then we watched a movie on streaming called The Bottoms. That was decent.
Yeah, that was in theaters as well.
Yeah, we didn't see it in the theater though.
No.
And then we have a movie called Family Switch. And that is starring Jennifer Garner and Ed Helms.
Mm-hmm. It's a Netflix original.
It hurts to talk about this. It's a holiday film, yes. And for some reason, it's like it was tops on the Netflix top 10 list. It was like, people were into it.
Yeah.
This movie kind of made us pissed. There's a lot of like cliches and stuff, but I mean, mostly it follows like a rich family, like totally entitled, overprivileged rich family. And for some reason, the writers of this movie felt like they needed to learn what I guess family really means to them, which was shocking to us because after we watched this, we were like, what the Jennifer Garner is like some kind of like executive, and she's got what seems like a pretty decent life. She lives in this big house. She's got a husband, 2 kids, and a baby. And it doesn't seem like this family is like, falling apart, so to speak. It doesn't feel like they're suffering, and they're, yes, they're different individuals as individuals go, but I just didn't feel like this story hit home with us at all, because we're just like, what the hell is this? Like, why are they focusing on this family? It's like, it was so cliche. It was kind of insulting as a movie to us.
For me, it was a very, very tone deaf film. It completely treated like, oh, here comes the white rich family that needs help, and everybody in the movie is a person of color who helps them out, or is their buddy, or some there for a joke. It to me was insulting in that way.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I haven't seen anything this tone deaf in a very long time.
Yeah.
Especially when so many movies are going out of the way to do refreshing takes in these genres. This movie's like backtracking. It almost feels like a parody of itself.
I mean, yeah, it had everything in it that you would be like, okay, why does this family, like, what do they need to learn how to appreciate things? Because
why them?
Why them? Why them?
This rich white family? Do they need help?
Yeah, I don't get it.
And again, this is so easily ready to be talking trash. We didn't do an episode on it.
We should
have, because we had other movies planned. But this movie could have easily been on that, and I think I could have talked about it for 3 days.
It was embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
It was a pretty embarrassing movie. I was like, it was cringeworthy a lot of the time.
I cannot believe how mad this movie made me.
It did. It infuriated you. It made me mad too. I mean, they're the most undeserving family
Yeah.
to have a movie like this. It was so weird.
It's a very odd film.
Yeah.
If you told me this was actually in the universe of Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy, where he was in a computer
Yeah.
simulation, I would have believed it, and I thought that was coming, and it never did. So let's move on to what is unfortunate, but like we said already, comedies are starting to take a back seat. But horror movies are becoming the money makers. They're cheap, they're made easy, and they make a lot of money for these companies. That's great for people who are horror fans like us. But the problem is, there's so many of these films that they constantly make the worst of the year lists.
Yeah.
And so with a whole bunch of movies that could have so easily made our number 3 and our number 2 spots, we had to kick them out for 2 other movies. So first up, and let me just name some of these movies, because I have a list here of movies that so easily could have been on our top 10 lists. There's movies like The Pope's Exorcist, Five Nights at Freddy's, Scream number 20, I think that's what that was, Bad Things, and She Came from the Woods. But we didn't give it to any of those movies. In fact, what we gave our number 3 spot to is There's Something Wrong with the Children, which we just happened to find recently on streaming. And God, did this movie make us angry. It was shockingly dull and boring. And I think there's something wrong with the children. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with the children. In fact, they're the most obnoxious kids you've ever seen on film. Mm-hmm. And I know they're possessed by some kind of bug alien creature, but I couldn't care less because I wanted to see them squashed. The whole movie, I wanted these kids to be beaten senseless.
They were terrible. They were absolutely unlikable, awful kids.
And did it come? No. But what's worse is that the adults played in this movie, and there's 4 of them. There's only 4 adults in this movie and 2 kids. The 4 adults don't seem like they would be friends, and also never would be married to each other. They all seem like they hate each other, and I hated them just as much as they hated each other. Mm-hmm. Terrible movie. That's our number 3 spot. So tell us what number 2 is.
Okay, so what could be worse than that? Well, we had Winnie the Pooh, Blood, and Honey. So, I guess this is like it's in the public domain, Winnie the Pooh. So obviously anything that's in the public domain is to be snatched up by whoever, whatever. But this is just a cash grab, but I don't even want to say it's a cash grab because was it like a popular thing? Did anyone even see this?
Yeah, it made a lot of money.
Besides like horror fans?
Yeah, it made some money. It was put in Fathom Events and it made money.
Oh yeah, Fathom Events, I forgot. Okay, well, either way, I mean, honestly, I feel like this movie was just it was kind of a dupe. Actually, it kind of duped us because I felt when I was going into this movie that, oh my god, is this gonna be like a supernatural thing? Like it's like really characters right out of the book that are coming out and like turning murderous. No, it's people in a freaking mask.
Well, they're not supposed to be masks. They're actually supposed to be the creatures.
But that's not the way it came off. They
just look so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can you at least, try a little bit? Like it wasn't even like they tried. It was just it was stupid. Like there was nothing really likable about this. I think we watched this on Bad Movie Night, didn't we?
Yeah. Of course.
Well, we knew what we were going into.
Yeah. We held off for as long as we could, but we definitely wanted to see what the hype was.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's not the worst movie of the whole year,
but it's close.
It's up there. It's up there.
Yeah. That's definitely our number 2 spot. Yeah. All right. So now for our number 1, we're going to have our own pick. So each of us have our own pick because there are definitely a bunch of movies this year that needed to be on a worst of list. And we named a bunch as runner-ups for each category. But now number 1, these 2 movies deserve their own spotlight. I disagree with Joe's a little bit, but I want her to have her pick. And I want her to rant about it, so take it.
Do you really want me to rant about it?
Yeah, go ahead. Let the people know how much you hated it.
Well, the horror community is going to boot me out.
No, I don't think so. It's
a lot of people like
this.
A lot of people like this movie, but I'm going to tell you it's probably one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life. Not just horror, but Skinamarink. That movie sucked. It was terrible. And the reason, here's the thing. I'm going to take my emotions out of this, and I'm going to be try and think of this in like a positive way. I understand what this writer director was going for. I understand that. I get the whole concept of how you can make something creep factor 11
Yeah.
and not show all of the, gore and the murders or whatever you want to show. It was a supernatural type movie. And I love those kind of movies. So you don't really, it's just kind of like, suspend your disbelief kind of thing. However, I applaud him for trying to do something different.
Yeah.
I do applaud him. But at the same time, I watched, what was it, an hour and a half worth of looking at walls, looking at lamps. Sometimes, because I have bad vision, I couldn't even tell what I was looking at, which is not the director's fault. It's mine. I can't see anything. But honestly, there was a lot that I did see, and it was baffling. I mean, it was literally a 10-minute long shot of a ceiling. And I was like, okay, you can do something like this and make it creepy, like maybe show like a shadow or something. But there was literally a 10-minute shot of a ceiling, a 10-minute shot of a shoe. Like, I'm like, okay, I can't do this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're dragging this out. You need to do something. You can't just have one long shot of a ceiling. It's ridiculous. And I know that, in the background you can hear like the voices and all that stuff. I understand that. I understand, like I said, what he was going for. And some of it was pretty creepy. So to give him that, he did, add the creep factor in there. But it was just too drawn out with the shots of like the wall or the shots of the door or the shots of the floor. I just couldn't take it, and also a lot of it was very dark. And like I said, for people like me with 4 eyes and bad eyes, I couldn't watch it. It was very difficult to watch. So Skinamarink is my number one.
All right. Yeah, where I don't particularly think it's the worst movie of the year, I ultimately didn't like it either. But I do think that, it's a start of something new. Maybe someone can make it better. Mm-hmm. But for me, my number one is a big blockbuster movie that has no right being as bad as it should. It cost at least $150 million. I think probably $250 million. I'm probably being generous. So with that much budget, with that much effort, this movie should not be this bad. And when we're 10 films in, you'd think we'd learn. But no, Fast X is the worst movie of the year. And I will say that this is the worst movie of the year because this movie, to me, is why action movies are starting to suck. This is taking to a new level. Every character has to be a superhero. Every character could do something ridiculous. Why they haven't crossed over with Transformers yet and just gotten to the insanity is beyond me. This should be attached to G.I. Joe. This should be attached to all the lunacy. They should be fighting Godzilla at this point. It's just that stupid. These are characters that went from stealing cassette players and VCR recorders, and now here we are deflecting fireballs with car bumpers and deflecting a rolling bomb in the middle, like Katamari Damacy, right in the middle of the Vatican City. This is out of control. And to make it even worse, it didn't even have an ending. It didn't even have a story that had any kind of finalization. It just abruptly ends. Mm-hmm. And they made people go and sit in the theater and have to wait for another one of these?
Yep.
For what? This movie, if I thought going to space was bad enough, here we are doing the shit that Dom is now doing. And what's even... I mean, I can go on and on. I think I already did in an episode while I was drinking. How bad this movie is, but characters are coming back from the dead constantly. Nothing is substantial in any way. And I think that this should be shown to film students as to what not to do in film. What not to write, what not to make. And I'm glad it didn't make as much at the box office as it should. I
think everybody's sick of it.
Yeah, I think everybody's sick of it, and thank God. But the people who are giving this passing scores, baffling to me. When there's movies getting trashed like Ant-Man and The Flash, that at least had some heart and some ideas and some visual interesting things and maybe some bad special effects, this movie has none of it. Like, it has all of those problems times 30. I don't even understand. It doesn't even look good. So why the hell are we appreciating stuff like this? For me, there is no excuse for a $250 million movie to be this bad. And so that's why it's my number one. And everything else, even Blood and Honey, when you put Blood and Honey, I'll take it. This movie is garbage. So
Sick of Vin?
I've been sick of Vin for a very long time.
You've been sick of Vin since the third one, I think.
Yeah. Hey, that's our lists. I went a little too heavy on that last argument there, my whole abrupt fighting this movie. But this is our top 10 worst movies of 2023. We're moving on next year. Let's hope for the best.